We must emancipate our minds from white mental slavery. They've got our people so mentally enslaved that millions now literally act as wardens of their own mental prison by fighting against those of us who try to free their minds. The hidden reality is that when the white oppressors freed the bodies of our ancestors, they never freed their minds. They kept their minds indoctrinated with white mental enslaving lies. And through their monopoly over information that we receive, they've ensured that those mental enslaving lies have been reinforced and reapplied, having been passed down generational lines to our current generation, thus keeping us mentally enslaved. We must therefore emancipate our minds from white mental slavery. However, trying to free the minds of our people from mental enslavement can feel as difficult as trying to feed medicine to the dead. The reason why it's so difficult to free the minds of the mentally enslaved is because most have normalized their mental enslaved mindset. Because they've normalized it, they do not perceive themselves as being mentally enslaved. Mentally enslaved is when people suspend their intellectual abilities and renounces the use of reason, facts, and common sense in order to hold on to their indoctrinated beliefs. These people suspend their critical thinking skills and will even ignore documented facts, and they therefore can be made to believe in things that literally insults their own intelligence. The condition is also called thinking without actually thinking. Mental slavery is the inability to view a situation or scenario objectively. A mentally enslaved person will not apply his or her brains to evaluate what they've been taught to believe in order to discover what is true and rational. Mental enslaved people accept and believe what has been indoctrinated into their minds, whether it makes sense or not. Mental slavery is the worst form of slavery because it makes you defend your indoctrinated false beliefs and causes you to fight against your own people that are trying to free you from those false beliefs. A mental enslaved person will believe that we made the N-word ours and that using it ridiculously now empowers us. A mental enslaved person will believe that a religious book that strongly supports slavery and that was written by history's proven most ungodliest group could possibly, ridiculously, contain the true words of God. A mental enslaved person will believe that a religious book that was brutally beaten into submission within the minds of our enslaved ancestors will now ridiculously set us free. A mentally enslaved person will believe that we're now our worst enemies in spite of a brutally horrific history to the contrary, and a preponderance of evidence now still proving that what oppressive forces are our worst enemies. A mental enslaved person will believe that our minds are being manipulated to think in ways benefiting the white society through a silly slave syndrome myth, instead of the truth that is being done through the white society's ongoing monopoly over information that are fed into our minds. They've got our people so mentally enslaved that telling the truth now literally offends millions. Nonetheless, those who know the truth must teach, whether it fills the room or clears it out. Because we are called to awaken the sleeping sheep, not to appease the mentally enslaved ones that have been brainwashed to act as wardens of their own mental prisons. A speaker of truth has no friends, African proverb. The reason why I make these videos is because I was born with the inability to believe in things that insults my own intelligence. Even while in the first grade, I could never accept the asinine false belief that we made the N-word ours and that using it now empowers us. And I've always been appalled with hearing black people using that word to describe themselves. And even while in Sunday schools, I've always refused to accept the asinine belief that a book that was brutally forced upon our enslaved ancestors will now ridiculously set us free. I can do many things, but believing asinine things was never one of them. As I grew up, I realized that I was born with a gift of insight from my ancestors, a gift that protects my mind from becoming colonized. I also realized that with this gift, I have an inherent responsibility to teach the truth to my people. I must teach the truth even though many of our people have been brainwashed and mentally enslaved to fight against those of us who teaches the truth that's required to free their minds. Nonetheless, I will tell the truth, regardless of who it offends. We are going to emancipate ourselves from white mental slavery, because whilst others might free the body, none but ourselves can free our minds. It is time to wake up to our reality. Emancipate your minds. One love and peace.